Pedro from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Chris from Jhofffilms. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. First of all, thank you for taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule doing whatever it is that you do. I'm not quite sure, but I'm sure you have a busy schedule doing whatever that is. So I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me for a little bit.
Thank you for having me. And in terms of what I'm up to, aside from the channel, as you know, I'm currently doing a postgraduate degree at Sheridan College for marketing management. So I've got that on the go, plus a couple side businesses that I'm working on right now. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Let me start off by asking you, how did you get introduced to heavy metal? Because, you know, growing up in Toronto, I came to Toronto in '96. So the metal scene is not what it is, for example, like in Europe, where I came from. So how was it for you, like going to school, and I'm assuming that's around the time, high school, that you got introduced to metal. How was that experience for you?
For me, the experience into music really came from going to sporting events, Don Cherry's old Rock'em Sock'em hockey videos from the 90s, and a lot of the early 2000s EA Sports video games, Tony Hawk Pro Skater as well. I mentioned in the Sam Dunn interview, I found out about Slayer because I was playing Guitar Hero 3 when I was in grade 9. So for me, it was just a combination of living life, and especially someone that grew up playing rep hockey. There's so much hard rock that I was introduced to the time I was a kid. And for me personally, it was, I remember listening to Elvis in the car on the way to a practice with my dad one day. And I liked rock and roll. And then I just wanted to find something a bit faster and more aggressive than Elvis. And then it just grew naturally between EA Sports, the aforementioned platforms that I mentioned. And yeah, and then by the time I hit high school, it was really grade 8, grade 9. A friend of mine showed me Battery by Metallica, and then it was lights out from there.
How many people in high school were listening to metal? Like, besides your friend, obviously, that introduced you to Metallica?
Yeah. Well, my friend, we went to elementary school together. I ended up going to a school in Toronto. He ended up going to the local high school. So in my actual high school, I didn't really have any friends that listened to metal. There was one guy I knew that liked some punk rock, so we could get together about that. I had one friend, he was in an older grade than me, that unfortunately graduated before I did. And that was really it. So for me, I was always that weird dude that liked metal. I didn't really get to celebrate it as much as I'd like to in high school. And the first time I really came to an understanding of the community that it was 2009 when Metallica played with Lamb of God and Volbeat over at the ACC. I went to the second show, and it was in October. I remember that, and it was sick walking out of Union Station, because I do that route every day, and it's all just suits and ties, really corporate people. And then that one day you walk out from the subway, it's just denim, black T-shirts, long hair. And I just thought, holy shit, you know, I'm not the only one out there. It was really comforting.
Was that your first concert experience?
Yes, that was my first concert.
How was overall, looking back? What are the fond memories that you take from that first concert?
Really getting lost in the music. And I was sitting up in the nosebleeds with my uncle, and I can't tell if it was the joints being handed around, but there were just some really divine moments of that set, and just being able to scream lyrics out loud with other people that knew the same lyrics. Because a lot of, for me growing up, Metallica was the big one in high school. If anyone asked me what my favorite bands were, it would be them, Lamb of God, Children of Bodom probably. Who else did I listen to a lot? Slayer, obviously, that's a given. What else I like? I like Death a lot as well. But yeah, so that really set the tone for me. And yeah, everything else, it kind of sucks because that being my first concert ever, everything else doesn't quite compare to it. But it was certainly an experience of a lifetime. That, and then I like the fact that I could buy my own merch, because I couldn't buy black T-shirts anywhere. I didn't have a credit card. So it was the one time I could go on my own without having to ask my parents. It's just like, hey, cool, yeah, I want that Metallica T-shirt.
Yeah, my first show was Slayer with Machine Head back in 1994. And yeah, I was in high school as well. So, and coming from a very small town, there was not a lot of metalheads. Going to the big city to a show, it was really eye-opening. The whole experience of going to a show of that magnitude. And yeah, I can totally relate to you and your experience. It changes your life completely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're never the same. You once you see a band live, I think you get a completely different experience than just listening to the band on a CD or vinyl or whatever the case might be.
Yes, for sure.
Was Metallica the first band that you heard like a full album? Like, do you remember the first metal record that you listened to, like from beginning to end?
Beginning to end, it's either Ride the Lightning or Warbringer's Total War. I can't remember. I did mention in high school, there was one guy in grade 12 when I was in grade 9. We're on the go bus heading to school one day, and I was studying for a history test. He was asking me what kind of music I like. I was like, oh, I like metal. And he's like, what do you like? I was like, oh, I really like Disposable Heroes by Metallica because it talked about warfare. And he's like, oh, man, you need to check out this band called Warbringer. And then that just fucking set it right off.
I discovered Slayer through a guy in high school that used to graffiti every single wall with the word Slayer. And I at that time, I didn't even know who Slayer was. But everywhere I went, I saw Slayer. So yeah, it's kind of weird how you discover some bands, how you're introduced to some bands. Is thrash metal your favorite genre? Is that fair to say?
I would say so, yeah. Granted, when I was in high school, I did like a lot of the classic stuff, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Angel Witch as well. But yeah, I like everything. I just gravitate to thrash the most. It was that first music that made me really passionate. That's the best way I can put it.
Do you find that your taste through time has evolved or stayed pretty much the same? Because I'm going to be honest, growing up, thrash was my favorite genre. I could not get enough of it. You know, like Overkill, Testament, Slayer, Metallica, Megadeth, Creator. That was really my gateway into the heavier stuff, into the darker stuff. But do you find that that's still your favorite one, or have you evolved through time and now you're expanding your horizons and listen to all sorts of different stuff?
Yeah, I listen to everything, and that's just been the case for me always. I'm sure younger me in high school would hate me for saying this, but you know, yeah, getting older, yeah, I can appreciate some old school hip hop. I was just at a barbecue at my buddy's place the other day. We're listening to CCR while we were barbecuing. I'm a fan of music altogether. I love Eazy-E, Biggie, a lot of the old school stuff, blues, whatever, hard rock. So I've always it kind of expanded to everything when I was growing up, and then high school was just straight metal. And now I listen to everything, but I do find myself going back to thrash probably the most.
Are you okay with the big four? Since you're a big fan of thrash, I have to ask you this: Are you okay with the big four when everybody talks about thrash metal, or do you feel like there's some bands that deserve perhaps to be in that conversation of the big four?
I think it's just the whole Bay and East Coast thrashings that need to be mentioned. And even going into New York as well with bands like Demolition Hammer, Nuclear Assault, and there's so many other bands that are forgotten. Sacrifice as well, Canadian legends, along with Razor and Annihilator. So it's just thrash. It should be 80s. I like to call it the first wave of thrash metal, and you can get into different geographics of where you're talking about. But yeah, I find the big four. It just kind of limits the conversation a bit. I get why everyone likes it. It's really catchy, tongue-in-cheek, so to say. So I get it, but yeah, there's certainly a conversation to be had about other bands in the scene at the time.
I always felt that Overkill was perhaps one of the most underrated thrash metal bands of all time, because whenever people talk about, even when they talk a little about the East Coast, always Anthrax seems to be the one that everybody mentions, but everybody seems to forget Overkill. How do you feel about the band?
I fucking love Overkill. I was lucky enough to talk to Bobby on Skype last year, and he's a big hockey fan as well, so we got to just shoot the shit about the New Jersey Devils. Bobby, hands down, probably has the most unique voice in the genre, and I wholeheartedly agree, very underrated band. I haven't seen them since 2014. I was actually supposed to go to Jersey to see them, Demolition Hammer, and Exhorter, and then COVID happened, so...
I know it fucked all of our plans.
Yeah, because I love Overkill, and they're still, and for how old those guys are, they're still pumping out albums. I just really wish they would come back to Toronto, because I haven't seen them since 2014.
I actually talked to Bobby last week, and they're working on a brand new album.
Nice.
So it'll be out next year, early like around April of 2021. And I mentioned the same thing. I said, when are you guys coming to Toronto, man? And like you guys, the last tour they were on with Crowbar, there was no, I don't think there was even a Canadian stop, at least not around here, not Montreal or Toronto.
No.
Yeah, I told him like what's happening. So he said that he'll do his best to make sure that there's a show in Toronto at the Opera House. So both of us will be happy at that show, I'm sure.
I'm sure we both will drop a lot of money at the merch table too.
Unfortunately, that's the way it goes, man. Like, you know,
dude, yeah.
I don't know, dude, you go with the budget to the show, or you like you already know that there's no way you're gonna stay within the budget. You're just gonna blow your load like on all sorts of stuff.
Well, there's two ways for me to answer this question. I'm actually have my own website called Thrashed Apparel on Big Cartel, and if you can see back here, I've got boxes of old T-shirts from when I was size large. I wear mediums now, but when I was younger, yeah, I would spend a lot of money at concerts, and I kind of regret that now, just because of the way the housing market is in Toronto, and you know, I'm trying to look to buy. I don't want to rent for the rest of my life, so yeah, I definitely spend a lot of money on merch. And then there's sometimes where you just go to the shows and there's nothing good, like Heavy Montreal. There was nothing I wanted to buy there.
Yeah, I saw you there, actually. I saw you at Heavy Montreal. I didn't see anything like outstanding in the merch stand, to be honest with you. And I felt like everything was really overpriced.
Yeah, did I see you in the media line?
Yeah, I think yeah, I saw you a couple of times at the media booth. I was coming in and out with my kid, and we're doing some interviews, and I saw you there doing some stuff. And he's like, "Hey, look, it's Chris." And I was like, "Okay, man, come on, like." You know, he's doing his shit. He's doing his job. Like, don't go bother the guy asking for a picture or an autograph or whatever.
It's all good. That show was real. That whole weekend was really eye-opening for me because I just walked 6 feet and I got to meet another fan or have someone come up to me for a picture. And it's awesome. It's awesome seeing everyone's lives that you get to touch and get to hear people tell you, "Oh, I got into this band because of you. I got into this music because of you. I started playing an instrument because of you." That's rad, and I love that because for me, I've always wanted to give something back to the music that the music gave to me when I was younger.
I see you at a lot of shows in Toronto, and I always see how friendly you are when people come up to you and take a little bit of your time, either for a picture or just to chat with you about a song, an album, whatever the case might be. I've never seen you with a sour face or saying, "Hey, you know, I'm too busy right now." Like whatever the case might be. Even when you were working the stand at Warbringer show, you were working their merch stand. Even then, you were friendly, and obviously, I mean, you're trying to sell some shirts, but
yeah.
but you were super friendly with everybody. Is that really is that your personality? Is that who you are?
I love people that are good human beings. I love interacting with other people. Me myself as a person, like off camera, I kind of keep to myself. I do study a lot. I'm really into marketing and SEO optimization, and I just got a Google Analytics certificate. So I do a lot of stuff on my own. When there's no pandemic, I like playing hockey. I like going to the gym. I just got into skateboarding too. So I'm but like even I went to the skate park when it first opened, and I met a fan there, and we ended up just talking the entire time at the skate park. And I don't mind it, just because I want to give back to the people that get to celebrate me and what I do with Julian.
And that takes me to my next question is how this channel got started. Like, who had the idea? Did he approach you? Did you approach him? Like, take me back in time. How was that process behind this channel getting started?
Well, Jackass probably had a big thing to do with it. The channel actually started as a really shitty prank channel back in 2013. This was prior to my involvement at all, and it went from a couple prank shopping cart-esque Jackass videos to how to be a black metal vocalist, where it was the first actor on the channel, Carpizzle. He just walked around Walmart before they went to a haunted house, and he just interacted with the Halloween decorations like he was a black metal vocalist. And then that video went viral, and then that whole series, How to Be a Blank Metal Vocalist, came to be. And I wasn't involved with the channel until 2015. I met Jhoff it was the Monomarth Sabaton Skeleton Witch show at the Sound Academy in 2014, I want to say. And at the time, I just said hi, hello, because back then I was in a band playing music, so I was always interacting with people even before the channel as well. It's just something I've gotten used to, being in a band. And even prior to that, I was writing for blogs and websites prior as well. So I've just been used to introducing myself to people and getting to know the others around me. Went completely off topic there, but
no, it's fun. It's fun. Like I love listening to what you have to say because it allows me to travel through your thoughts and see how things got started. So then you met him at that Monomarth Sabaton show, and then how did the sparks fly? Did he reach out to you and say, "Hey, do you want to do some videos?"
We interacted on Facebook every once in a while, and I came to realize that all the other people that were on the channel at the time also went to York University. I went there as well. I did my undergrad in finance and business econ. Jhoff was a film major. So I'd see him around campus every once in a while, and I worked at the pub in Winters College, which was like the fine arts building. So I'd see them, and I was a bartender back when I was doing my undergrad as well. So I always interacted with them. And then it was one day, September 2015, Jhoff messages me on Facebook, and he goes, "Hey man, we want to do this video called How to Make Metalhead Friends. Are you down to do it?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, man." And he was like, "Cool, just bring your jacket, okay?" I said, "Yeah, okay." So I just showed up. We filmed the video in Walmart, and I had been watching. I was a fan of the channel prior because for me, that was a channel I would get distracted when I was doing my homework at home. I was a big fan of it. I loved how tongue-in-cheek it was, and you could tell that there was big influence from like Trailer Park Boys to satire comedies and some horror comedies as well. So, and I was always a fan of it. So when I had my introduction on the channel, I kind of knew what kind of comedy they were going for. I thought nothing of it. I went to bed that night and I woke up and my Facebook had exploded, and I thought I got into an argument with someone on social media again. But then it turns out it was just everyone sharing the video, and then that video went viral, and then the rest is history, basically. I didn't start writing until early 2016. Julian actually pushed me to kind of get involved more aside from acting in the writing. And then as Carpizzle and Prims moved on with their lives, I was the sole guy that stayed with the channel. And I don't want to say it, but the only long hair and denim vest guy as well. So. Yeah.
You know what I think from this whole thing is that there's a lot of things I'm taking from this whole conversation, but one of the things that I really want to mention is how intelligent, how smart you are. Like, I mean, you just mentioned some of the courses you're taking, and I think sometimes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I always had the feeling that people look at metalheads and they always have this assumption that we're a bunch of dumbasses that smoke weed and just get drunk and go to shows and whatever, that we're not the brightest of the bunch, and I think you're a living example that that's not true. That when you make assumptions, you just end up making an ass out of yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And for me personally, that's the whole thing with the channel is we're very self-deprecating. We like making fun of ourselves. You take the power away from the people when thrash metal is just about pizza thrash, drinking beer, smoking weed, whatever. You can celebrate and make fun of yourself and have fun with it. And it's just hilarious because I'll see people thinking I'm actually that person all the time, that I'm just like, that I'm just perpetually pounding beer. Or I had a bottle of vodka in a recent video when I made fun of Yari Mindpun as a...
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. People just assumed I downed half that bottle of vodka in the comment section. I was just reading it. I was like, no, I had a break from my homework and I did that video and then I went back to studying. Like, fuck, man. But that's the thing. And then I love meeting people at shows and getting to prove them wrong and just interact with other human beings. And it's that, and this channel is helping me get into entrepreneurship as well. And I'm grateful for that too.
And one thing that I'm sure that it has its perks as well is you getting free beers at the shows.
Yeah, that and free weed. That was hands down. Best part about being on that Warbringer tour was I had in my tip jar, like I would encourage people just to throw a fucking joint in there or whatever. I love it.
Did you do the whole tour or you were just working the Toronto show?
No, I was on for 6 dates. So I did Toronto, Ottawa, Sherbrooke, Trois-Rivières, Quebec City, and Montreal. And then they were nice enough to fly me back home. And then I got to go back to my real life bartending all over again, which was kind of lame. I wish I had stayed. I wish I had been able to stay on that entire tour. Their tour manager and merch guy wasn't able to cross borders basically and get back in safely. So they needed someone to work merch. And I said, hey, I can do that and film a whole thing for you guys too. So it was an awesome experience, and I reminisce about that tour. It was a lot of fun, and it was really great meeting fans from all over the country.
I think that's another beauty of the channel. I know because of my own channel, it's given me the opportunity to meet a lot of the idols that I had growing up and bands that I listen to now. And I think that's such a great thing that you have something that gives you this opportunity to expand beyond that and then meet those people that you listen to. I still get blown away whenever a song comes in the car and I'm like, hey, I know those dudes. You know what I mean? Like it's still, to me, still hard to wrap my head around it. How does that feel for you? Like, does that give you a different perspective even on the music when you listen to knowing the guys that are making the music?
I would, to an extent, yes. Every time I throw on Warbringer, and that's pretty much every day at this point, I still reminisce about, there are certain songs I'll listen to more because it reminds me of the set list while I was on tour with them. Severed Reality will never be the same for me because it's so much better. It's great on album, but that band has grown and matured so much that they have this just tumultuous, monstrous sound live, and I love it. It's like being on a roller coaster, and those guys absolutely rip. And my boys Next Mortis as well. It's great seeing those guys grow and evolve, and I'm just getting to talk to them and even getting to collaborate with them. Like Conan wrote a jingle for a cooking segment we did on the channel, and we're going to get Philip Cody's side project band some background music for another video. So it's great interacting with them, and yeah, the music does definitely take another step for what it means to me.
Going a little bit back into the channel, how do you come together in terms of creating the skits? Like this Yachty one, like you said you were studying and then you just decided, you know, I know Yachty, he's a friend of mine. I was actually thinking of sending him your clip and asking him what he thought about it. And I still might do something along those lines. But how did you come up with a clip like that, for example? Let's use that one as an example. You're studying. How does that come into your mind in the middle of that process?
Oh, I was just scrolling through Facebook and I saw Yari had a new campaign, and all I could think of was him in that fucking sauna that he wanted to build for his home studio. And I'm sorry, I think that's a bit much asking for fans to build basically a home for you and a home studio. You're already signed to a label. And don't get me wrong, I love the first Winter Sun album and Time 1. And I feel like he's just dangling Time 2 in front of a lot of people and leading them on. So I just saw that. I saw another campaign on that on Facebook. I laughed. I scrolled past it. And then Jhoff messages me. He's like, hey, did you see that Yari thing? And I was like, yeah, pretty ridiculous. And he goes, you should do a video about it. And I was like, why? And he was like, just do a stupid accent. I was like, all right. And then I found my old Winter Sun tour shirt. I grabbed a cloak and a hat and the Finlandia vodka that I had. And that's the thing with me. I just interact with my surroundings, and I just picked up random shit I had on my desk. Like I picked up my pen and my glasses and crap.
Where did you get the hat? The wizard hat was epic. Like, like where do you have that laying around? Seriously.
That's actually my girlfriend's hat. My girlfriend Stephanie, she's a fashion designer, and she has her own clothing line called Bloodless Clothing. And she's a photographer as well, and she does a lot of fantasy themed shoots. And she's big into the Toronto metal scene as well as a photographer. You'll see her shooting at concerts, at Inertia shows. So we have a lot of costumes here. So it's pretty great now that we're living together and I get to interact with other things. If it was just me at home, I probably would have just grabbed the Winter Sun t-shirt and the bottle of vodka. But it was great just throwing on the cloak and the hat too. It just really brought the ensemble together.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think you brought it all together. It definitely gave the skit a different atmosphere. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. How much time do you spend writing, and how do you come up with ideas? And then, actually, more importantly, have you ever came up with an idea that was so outlandish that you're like, okay, no, there's no way we can do this one. Like, it's just a little bit pushing too much, or there's no such thing.
In terms of how we come up with content, that process has certainly changed over the years. Most of what we do is a lot of improv comedy. For example, when we did the Slayer lawsuit video last summer, we had a friend that dressed up who went to law school and just dressed up in a suit. And the idea was, okay, let's find a room at York University, basically, because we found a Slayer article about a guy trying to sue. It was a satire article about a guy carving Slayer into his arm. And I read that and I was like, that's great. Let's do something about that. So it's either interacting with the environment or just we're shooting the shit and then we come up with idea on the fly. I'm trying to think of some other videos that we just showed up and did together. Any of the Metalhead Problem videos where it's just me running around throwing an empty can of beer across parking lots and shit. Those are just all improv. Or one video, different metal genres or something. We got in shit for because I had my bong out in public, and then someone called the cops on us, and then we had to go move. And it was just me running around parking lots. So we'll take it together and we'll think about a theme. So it's a lot of improv on the fly, and then every once in a while we'll sit down and actually write something out. But for the most part, it's just spur of the moment. Whatever is influencing us in life, we'll make fun of.
Is there, so going back to the last part of the question was, is there ever any time you guys done one where you felt that, man, this one, it's kind of dicey. We're going to get some heat for this.
Oh yeah, we certainly pushed the boundaries. When Phil Anselmo had his infamous white wine incident, we'll call it.
I like that line. I like that. That's very good. Very good.
That was the immediate upload of Prims doing his infamous rendition of Phil Anselmo when Phil was just trying to say White Power Ranger on stage. So yeah, we've definitely pushed the boundaries a lot of times. And even in the past where we'll make jokes about suicide or whatever, or we'll poke fun at black metal or whatever, because and then whenever we make fun of bands in particular, we made fun of Trivium once. And then I had a bunch of Trivium fans coming at me, oh, why do you hate Trivium? Why are you talking shit? It's just, hey man, I just unlike their Facebook page in a comedy video. Don't take it too seriously. So anytime we really push the boundaries, we poke fun at any band, really, we're risking getting shit on by other people. But we don't really give a shit. We're going to do what makes us happy.
And I think that shows in videos that you guys put together on the channel. It really comes across as something organic, something that you guys are having a blast with. And at the end of the day, it's comedy, it's satire. I honestly don't think people should take it beyond that. It really it's not like you guys are running for office.
No, absolutely not. But I may run for prime minister next year if this whole COVID thing blows over. I want to have a hash-based economy. Mandatory time off for playoffs during the NHL season as well.
I was just going to ask you, are you, because you're studying, you obviously have a career that you want to pursue. Do you ever worry that the videos that you're doing now and all the craziness that you're getting involved somehow someday can come back to bite you, or you're not really concerned with it?
Well, that's the whole thing, because when I finished my undergrad, I worked at Investment Planning Council in an office. I had my hair tied back. I had knots in my hair every day. At the end of the day, I had to wear a goofy ass dress shirt and tie half the time, and that just wasn't me. And then I even got told by upper management when I was applying for a different company, trying to get into the marketing department, because that generation doesn't recognize something like YouTube or social media as a legitimate marketing or any sort of business management. They just see it as a hobby or whatever. So for me, I just wanted to take the plunge. I got sick of wanting to conform to something else and because basically if I wanted to do something with my undergrad, I'd have to shave my beard and my hair and be someone that I didn't want to be, and work ridiculous hours for shit money. So I just wanted to do me, and that's why. And especially for me, just because I'm into social media marketing, just from doing this channel alone, it's brought up new opportunities for me to do social media management. I work for a company called Tactic Creative Studios as well in Mississauga. I'm contracting myself outside as well, doing social media strategies for different companies. So it's led to me wanting to work on my own, because who I am is who I am. You get what you see. If people can't appreciate comedy for what it is, I really don't want to have any sort of interaction with them.
Do you feel like that is changing a little bit now as far as the impact of social media, that companies are more and more realizing the far reach that it has in terms of product placement, for example, and other things like sponsorships and whatnot, or you still feel like there's a little bit of a conservative side of the business that doesn't want to let go of the old ways?
There certainly is. The fact that we get demonetized so much on the YouTube platform in of itself speaks volumes to that. We've been lucky enough to work with a few companies like Puck Hockey or Ridge Wallets. So we do have companies reaching out to us that see our market placement and opportunities. And we have interactions with them every once in a while, but we're never going to get the big boy money. I don't think we're going to get a video game app trying to get us sponsorship for one of our videos, and that's fine by me. I like interacting with good companies, and a company like Ridge Wallet. I already own a Ridge Wallet, so I was more than happy to work with them.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. You're not willing to just take the money to do the ad. You want to take the money from a company that you actually believe in, so that you don't feel like you're just selling something that's not exactly something you would buy yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not that kind of person, and for me, aside from the fact we don't get that much money from YouTube just because we get demonetized so much, we really rely on those ad sponsorships that we get, or when we sell merch. We just updated our Jhofffilms website. We have t-shirt pre-orders and new patches, even a back patch that we worked with my friend Trevor from Eye of Saturn. So we really rely on those to actually generate an income, help pay for rent over our heads and shit. Well, for me, having to pay rent.
Well, I was just going to say, a lot of people have a misconception. We don't monetize our channel at all. Like we don't. We just made the decision from the beginning that we would never going to monetize the channel, because to us it's really a hobby. I have a job, and this is just something I do with my kid. But a lot of people have this misconception that YouTubers are raking in the big bucks, like we're like swimming in money and we're making all sorts of cash. And it's just, I mean, it may be true for some people, but it's definitely not true for you. It's definitely not true for me. So I think there's a huge misconception. Do a lot of people approach you about it like, hey, man, you guys must be making a killing on YouTube?
Oh, I've seen shit on Instagram where people call us sellouts because and they'll caption the shit with like, oh, you thought Metallica were sellouts. Jhofffilms is ad reads now. Like, I don't give a shit. I need to pay for rent for over my head. And yeah, I've had a few people that think we're raking in big bucks. And fact of the matter is, unless you're 500,000 subscribers and over, and you're on every platform at all hours of the day, and I'm working towards doing that. I want to get on Twitch after I'm done my post-grad. I have a gaming PC now that my girlfriend has. So I want to be able to utilize that. I've got my own space to do my own creative thing as well. So yeah, you can turn being a YouTuber into a career, but it's not until you're 500,000 and up, from my experience and what I've seen on the platform in of itself. That, and just being able to use your brand outside of the platform as well and turn it into business opportunities for yourself.
I agree with you. I think the road is a lot more bumpy than what people think. I get that a lot from people saying like, oh, like from things that, oh, you must be taking money from the label to do this video or to check out this song. Or it's not, none of that shit is true at all. I mean, there's really not much to be made. Like you said, unless you're a huge channel that has a huge reach. And today, when you're talking about metal music and the type of stuff that you guys do, it's so easy to get your videos demonetized. I mean, I think even if I could monetize my videos, which half of them I can because they're copyright restricted, the amount of cursing and the amount of shit that we say on the channel would get the video immediately demonetized, and people don't even realize that.
Yeah, like you'll never see a Chevrolet ad before one of our videos ever, either A&P-REACTS or Jhofffilms. But yeah, it's really a shame in that sense. But no, kudos to you guys for getting the music out there as well and really enjoying metal for what it is. Yeah,
that was always our goal. I mean, we never did this for money. It was just for me to introduce my kid to music, and to be honest with you, just give me a chance to hang out with him and not see him wearing his pants all the way down to his knees. So I just kind of want to fix a few of those kind of things. So that's really the reason why we got into it. And that takes me to a little bit of the world that we live in here in Toronto. Because I go to a lot of shows, some with him, some without him, because there's a lot of age restrictions happening as far as metal shows are concerned. I see you at a lot of shows. I think the last show I saw you at was probably Cabal at the Rock Pile. I think that was the last show I saw you at. Or maybe Soulfly. I think you were at Soulfly.
Soulfly I was at.
Yeah, it was Soulfly. I saw you there. But I see you everywhere, almost everywhere. If there's a thrash metal show, for sure you're there. That's 100% guaranteed you're there. So what's your take on the local metal scene here in Toronto?
It's a great scene. The really unfortunate thing with Toronto is that the scene will never be as big as it can be just because of the restrictions of living in the biggest hub in Canada. Rent is too expensive. You see venues like the Coalition going down. And I don't even know how places like the Hard Luck or the Velvet Underground or even the Mod Club, despite the fact they have that Virgin Mobile contract, are going to be able to get through stuff like this. So there's been a lot of great bands that have come through Toronto over the years. I remember the first band that I got into in the local scene was Fatality. That was back in, I want to say 2009, 2010. They released No, 2011. They released a Thrash Fuck Eat Sleep demo, and I got into them, and that was my first introduction to the Toronto metal scene when I was younger. But it's unfortunate that it's so expensive to live in a city like this, because we'll never have a vibrant metal scene that, say, you can have in the suburbs.
Do you feel like the local promoters perhaps don't do enough to help the local bands? Because I'll give you an example. Growing up in Portugal, it was very common when a big band came to do a show, they always would have a local band opening that show. It was almost like 100% of the time. It was very rare that you wouldn't see a local band. And here we don't necessarily get to see a lot of that. So do you think that local promoters could do more, or you think it's difficult because, you know, the tour's already set, the band's already set?
There's two parts to that question. It's just the way the music industry is these days. When you sell a complete tour package, there's not really any room for that. And I can share this from experience. I think the unfortunate thing about, and I'm not going to name drop anyone, but some promoters in Toronto who abide by the pay-to-play model for bands, where you'll have like 6 or 7 local opening bands, and it's just the promoter saying, buy these 40 tickets off of me, and you don't make money, you don't break even until you sell all 40 of those tickets. And it could be to your parents or someone that doesn't actually go to the show. All the promoter cares about is getting the money reimbursed for the tickets. When Destruction were here, I think back in like 2013 or 14, I was actually talking to him about it, and he was like, yeah, this Toronto show is great because it's just a tour package. We did New York, and there were like 9 local openers. And by the time you get on, he said, by the time you get on stage, you're already exhausted. So, and he even mentioned that the whole pay to play thing doesn't happen in Europe at all. It's just, it's like you said, you go to a show and you're just assuming that there's going to be a local opener. So I'd love to see the pay to play model abolished and have some more local bands. But that's the thing. With the way the metal scene is in 2020 and the way tour packages are sold, it's unfortunate that it'll never be as good as, say, it can be in Europe.
Do you think, how can I put this question to you in a nice way? The whole pay-to-play, I'm not a fan either. Do you really feel like the bands don't even get almost anything out of it? Like, I honestly almost don't see the point in it. Do you see any reason to even pay to be on a bill?
The unfortunate thing is, and I can certainly speak from experience, when you don't have any other place to go play shows, you don't have any other option. For a young band, yeah, you're probably going to have to do a couple of those just for the sake of getting your name out there. And it's really unfortunate because that's what promoters will try to sell you. Oh, we're giving you exposure. The promoter isn't really giving you exposure. It's all the other bands that are selling his tickets. He's not actually promoting, which is really unfortunate. So for a small part, yeah, maybe get some exposure, invite your friends to the show. But aside from that, no, there's nothing really that local bands can benefit. And I would say for local bands to just put on their own shows.
I was just going to say that because I've gone to so many shows where there's like 4 or 5 openers, all local bands. And the only people there watching them are the band that's going to play before, that's going to play after. There's absolutely nobody there that you're actually exposing your music to besides the bands that you're playing with. Because then everybody shows up just to see the headliner right at the end because they already know that's going to be this huge procession of local bands. So that's why I feel like you're almost, the only thing you're getting really is the experience of playing live. But besides that, I don't think you're selling any shirts. I don't think you're really getting your name out there. You're just helping the promoter out. That's all you're doing, really.
Yeah, agreed. All you're doing is helping the promoter pay his rent. The promoter doesn't actually do anything. It's all the locals that are pushing and plugging for the show. And that absolutely happens where people just only show up for the headliner. And it's better off for bands just to jam amongst themselves, I would say. Because, yeah, playing live is a different experience. But at the end of the day, you just got to be tight with your bandmates. If you're tight with your bandmates inside and outside of the jam space, you guys are going to have chemistry no matter where you are. It doesn't matter.
The other part of this whole thing is the actual audience, the people that show up to the shows here in Toronto, the local metal scene here in Toronto. It always puzzles me when I go to a show, let's say Metallica, the last time they played at the Rogers Center. It was like $250 a ticket. The place is sold out. It sells out in half an hour. A local band is playing for $5 at the door with 2 free drinks included, and there's like 5 guys there. So do you feel like sometimes the scene here or the people in the city here, even metalheads, they're a little bit elitists, if you will?
You're going to get that. You're going to get that level of elitism in anything you're a fan of. I've experienced it with hockey, in the brewing industry, being a bartender. Yeah, to an extent, there are people that are just, but you know, it's also not easy getting in and out of the city, especially if you're not living there. When I was growing up, I lived in Mississauga, and it was a pretty big pain in the ass. It took over an hour on the go bus just to get downtown all the time. So, but I understand that, and people also work day jobs Monday to Friday, so they can only really pick and choose what they're going to see. And you know, yeah, maybe they haven't seen Metallica before, but they'll be one of the other 5 people at that local show on a different night. So it's a lot of give and take in that capacity.
All right, last question I have for you is, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Still on the channel, starting your own different channel about something completely different, maybe cooking, so that you can monetize it and perhaps make some more money off of YouTube? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Well, the thing with Julian and I is we want this. This is our baby. We've put so much time and effort into this that I don't want anything else in life other than to make comedy with him. We were actually in the midst of filming a pilot for a TV show. I can't really spill too much details about it, but we had our first dress rehearsal and then the pandemic hit. So that's going to shit. And God knows if we're going to get all the actors back, because people don't have jobs right now. So ideally in 5 years from now, hopefully Julian and I will have a TV show at some point. We've made short films together in the past. We have stuff written. It's just a matter of saving up the money and generating it and getting it out there. 5 years from now, I'm hoping to own my own condo, have a dog, and just do YouTube on a full-time basis. And don't get me wrong, I'd still love to do social media marketing, but I'd love to work with just bands or like Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. I would kill to work social media for the Leafs and be on their Instagram and Twitter. So I'd love to expand into sports marketing as well, which is a bit of a stretch for music, but I think the connection can be made there.
Well, I wish you have a lot of goals and a lot of hopes and dreams. And I feel like a lot of them are going to be not easy to obtain, but I think you're on the right track, because you sound like a very driven guy. And yeah, and you don't take no bullshit, and you don't take no side roads. You know what you want, and you're gonna go get it. So I like that. I really like that. You don't see that too much these days. I think people get sidetracked with other things, and they're easily distracted with the world around them, and they lose focus on what they want. And also they feel that what they want should come really easy and quickly, and things that are worthwhile normally take time and effort. And I feel like you're not afraid of some hard work in order to get what you want.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's always been my go-to. I shoot from the hip. I am what you see, unapologetic. And yeah, I want to live life my own way. And be it because for me, metal was always just like an experience for me to be for that rebelliousness, wanting to grow your hair long. And I'm always going to be me. And I want to live life on my own terms. I don't want to work for someone else. I want to work for me. And I want to give back to the scene that ultimately gave me some hope at one point in my life.
All right, Chris, thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate it. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay COVID-free, and hopefully I see you at the next show whenever this shit clears up.
Can't wait to see you again. Hopefully we can share a beer together, and thank you so much for having me on your channel.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.